2023 might be the biggest year in the history of the UFC, and here's why. Number 1 is that the UFC will be celebrating its 30th year anniversary, so there's no way they aren't going to do something special. But apart from their anniversary, the entire world of MMA would be anticipating the return of Jon Jones, Henry Cejudo, and Conor McGregor, 3 of the promotion's most lethal fighters. There's also Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, and speculations of Amanda Nunes going up against the best female fighter out of the PFL, Kayla Harrison. So when are these fights taking place? Who do we think will win? And most importantly, what else will the UFC be bringing for us in 2023? Well, to get the answers to these questions and more, just sit back, relax, and let's begin. Oh, and before we forget, you might want to stick to the end where we reveal the UFC's plan to headline its first ever card in Africa with Israel Adesanya in the main event. Alright, now let's begin. The first confirmed fight of 2023 will feature Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno in their 4th UFC encounter for the flyweight title. It's very rare to see 2 fighters get locked in the octagon more than twice, but for these two, it'll definitely be worth seeing them for the 4th time. Especially because their first fight ended in a draw, while their second and third fights ended in Figueiredo losing and winning back the title from Brandon Moreno. However, after winning the belt in January 2022 at UFC 270, Figueiredo sustained a hand injury that kept him out of action for a full year. The UFC then set up an interim flyweight title fight between Moreno and Kai Kara France at UFC 277. Brandon Moreno won the bout via TKO, leading to this fight, the first ever tetralogy fight in the UFC, scheduled to take place in Brazil on January 21st, 2023, at the main event of the UFC 283 card. This means Figueiredo will be having home advantage, while Moreno is very well willing to step into the belly of the beast to prove that he really is the better fighter. There's really no telling what could happen in that fight, because these two are pure dynamites inside the octagon and are definitely ready to do anything to become the undisputed UFC flyweight champion. Now, this next one is big, and it features Jon Bones Jones versus Francis Ngannou for the UFC heavyweight title. Okay, don't get too excited, because this one isn't a sealed deal yet. However, all that's left is for both fighters to sign the contract, and it's official. This fight will definitely be a barn burner, but the question on everyone's mind is, does Jon Jones still have that firepower in him? Like, let's face it, this guy has been away from the UFC for 3 good years. So is he still as good as he used to be? And being that this is his first fight in the heavyweight division, how will he perform against the firecracking Francis Ngannou? These are questions that we'll definitely get answers to if the fight actually becomes official. But for now, the word going around the UFC is that this fight will take place in March 2023 as the main event of UFC 285. Another main event that'll definitely shake the UFC is set to take place in February 2023 at UFC 284, featuring the much anticipated bout between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski for the UFC lightweight title. You've probably heard about this one before, and we've also made a video about it, a video we still recommend you check out after this one. But look, at the end of the day, this fight might be the biggest of 2023, because there's so much at stake for both fighters. On one hand, Islam obviously has the dream to be champion till he retires, just the way Khabib was. While for Volkanovski, his position at the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world is on the line. So what exactly would it take for Volkanovski to defeat Makhachev? Can he pass through the fire of Makhachev's wrestling and not quit? And can he really defeat Islam Makhachev? These are questions that are going to be answered come UFC 284, and questions we broke down in our video about this fight. So again, make sure you check it out. Another fight confirmed on the UFC 284 card is the middleweight fight between Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker. After Khamzat Chimaev missed weight for his bout at UFC 279, he had a heated altercation with Paulo Costa at the UFC's Performance Center. Many fans then speculated a fight between Paulo Costa and Khamzat in 2023. But in a quick turn of events, the UFC decided to book Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa instead. Now, other rumors circulating around this fight are that it will be a #1 contenders fight for the UFC middleweight title after the last stylebender, Israel Adesanya, gets his rematch against Alex Pereira. This rematch is actually also meant to take place in 2023, but there aren't any official words or even rumors concerning that fight right now. So, while Robert Whittaker is the number 2 ranked middleweight in the world, Costa would have to step up his game to make his way up the ranks to his first ever title shot in the UFC. But getting past a guy like Whittaker wouldn't be easy, because Whittaker has literally defeated every other tough guy in the middleweight division, apart from Israel Adesanya and the current champ Alex Pereira. And to also put into context why this fight will be a hard one to notch, Marvin Vettori defeated Costa back in 2021 via unanimous decision, while Whittaker defeated the same Vettori via unanimous decision in 2022. So it kinda puts into context just how good Robert Whittaker is. And it's easy to underestimate him because of how quiet he can be at the press conference and the media rounds. But don't get it twisted, this guy is a beast, and this fight will definitely tell us how good either fighter truly is. Now also happening in the UFC come 2023 is Conor McGregor and Henry Cejudo's rumored return. Starting with Henry Cejudo, his coach Eric Albarracin announced his re-entry into the USADA testing pool after his short retirement from the UFC. Now, rumors going around suggest that Cejudo is looking to make his return in a title fight against the current bantamweight champion, Aljamain Sterling, for the bantamweight title. Sterling, however, isn't buying this idea one bit. He's more interested in facing Sugar Sean O'Malley, who had a controversial win against former bantamweight champion Peter Yan at UFC 280. And while Henry Cejudo was actually meant to make his return late in 2022, it's almost so certain that he'll be back in 2023. So if he comes back, who does he face? Sugar Sean or Aljamain Sterling? While all hands are pointing to Aljamain Sterling, since Cejudo technically never lost the title, Sterling feels that if this fight is going to happen, then it should happen in mid-2023. Conor McGregor is also targeting a comeback in 2023. However, he still needs to clear a few things with USADA and the UFC. But once that's all done, his comeback will be official, and it might be in the welterweight division. The UFC plans to grant him an exemption from being a part of the USADA testing pool, so if actually he does get the exemption, then it's game over. Moving on to the women's division, Amanda Nunes might get to face the only other woman who we can say is as dominant as she is, and that woman is PFL's Kayla Harrison. A potential fight between these two has been brewing for years, and it just feels right that 2023 is the year it finally gets to happen. Amanda Nunes has been the women's featherweight champion since 2018, but the UFC has had a hard time finding opponents or even fighters generally that fit into that weight class. This brought about talks of the UFC shutting the division down, but the twist here is, this is the exact same case in PFL, as the former PFL women's lightweight champion, Kayla Harrison, was having a hard time finding opponents before suffering her first defeat back in November 2022. So a potential crossover to the UFC would be a mega fight for both Nunes and Harrison, and definitely one of the biggest in 2023. And now for the big one, UFC goes to Africa. During the post-fight press conference of UFC 279, Dana White mentioned his plans to headline a pay-per-view event in Africa. According to Dana White, the promotion is looking to host an event in Africa very soon. And even though there really aren't many host countries with the type of arena the UFC has hosted a couple of its other pay-per-view events, former UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya believes there are good countries that can suit Dana's style. He also wants the main event to be made around any potential fights involving him. And the truth is, such a move would be a nice way for the UFC to expand its audience and mark its 30th anniversary. So, which of the fights in this video are you most excited about, and who do you think would win? Let us know in the comment section down below. But before you go, you should also check out these other videos shown on your screen right now. Click on any one, and we'll see you there.